Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number 1514-603. This is a this is a door double acting, not a double door. It's a double acting spring hinge for a door. Okay, let's dissect the part number. 1514 is an incredibly common double acting spring hinge by Bommer. We'll get to what 1514 means in a moment. The -603, a little less common, means two things. It means that it's steel-based and that it has a zinc coating on it. Now, zinc coating has significant corrosion-resistant properties when certainly compared to an unfinished or an unpainted hinge, like maybe prime coat. If you're going to use it in an application that might be slightly have some moisture involved, perhaps 603 zinc coating would be a great idea. It's also very satin chrome looking. It's certainly much more shinier than satin chrome, but it doesn't carry the upcharge for satin chrome. So if you need something that's in a chrome type finish, not polished, not dull, 603 is a great option for that reason alone, because it's significantly less expensive. Now, 1514 is a hinge made specifically for doors that are 7/8 to 1 inch thick. That's it. If you've got something thicker than that, this is not the right hinge. 1515 might be the right hinge for you on your application, because the 1515 goes up to 1.5 inches thick. Next, and most importantly, is the weight. This is for 18-pound doors. Doors that are no bigger than 18 inch, no taller than about 38 inch. That's what it's been tested and designed for. So, if so far so good, let's continue on. If your application is compliant with those situations, then we're in real good shape. There are two links below this video. One is called the template, and the other is called instructions. And as pretty common with Bommer, not all of the information, not everything you need to know is on one page. It's generally spread out on a couple of pages. Not that you can't get the information by actually measuring the item sometimes, but you need to refer to both. Let's start with the template. First of all, everything on the left 2/3 of the page are just dimensional properties of the hinge. So I won't take time and beleaguer all those points there, except to say that if you have any questions on the dimensional part of the hinge, feel free to reach out to us. Now, the right third of the page, and that's really where the important stuff begins. Everything on the right third of the page, and that table really tells you facts that you'll end up needing to know next, really, when you're installing these hinges. So, admittedly, at first glance, there might be a lot there to digest, but after you look at it a couple of times, it's very straightforward. The upper right-hand corner, first line, frame opening for single doors, mortised. Next line, frame opening for single doors, not mortised. So what they're saying is the frame sizing information, what's the net width opening of the cased opening frame itself, is based on whether or not you're going to mortise, whoops, glad it wasn't class, whether or not you're going to mortise the door leaf. You can mortise this or you can surface mount this. That's crucial to know, because the frame sizing information, the clear opening of the frame, is going to be based on how much margin is on the hinge side and how much margin is on the lock side, or the opposite side. So determining this is going to be based on what you're working with. Do you already have a frame made? If you do, that's what you're going to start with and work from there. Maybe you have a door that you're not going to plane down and you're going to build the frame opening to suit that door. Let's go with the example that you've got a, well, for sake of argument, an 18-inch wide cased opening frame. You are not going to mortise the hinge leaf, and you're going to use a square edge door. Now, the B clearance, let's talk about that, is in the table down below. That B clearance is going to be either a 1/4 inch if you're not going to radius the door, meaning it'll be a square edge door, or it'll be an eighth of an inch if you're going to radius the door. So, with our example, before we get into the particulars, 18-inch frame, You're not going to mortise it, and you're going to use a square edge door. So you've got 18 inch, you know that. You're not mortising it, so you have to allow the 0.25 inch shown on the table, that's a 1/4 inch. And then you're going to allow another 1/4 inch because you're using a square edge door. So that's 18 minus a 1/4 minus a 1/4, 17.5. So now you see how you can go about determining that, and you just alter those values based on what your actual conditions are going to be. Another example, just to make sure that we've got it correct. You've got an 18-inch door, and you're going to build your frame around it. 18-inch door, you're going to mortise the hinge leaf and radius the door style. So an 18-inch plus the 0.062, which is a 1/16 of an inch, plus the 1/8 inch. So your inside frame opening would be 18 3/16. That's how you go about doing it. Now, what this table doesn't give you is what are you doing if you've got a pair of doors? And that's unusual. I'm not sure why that information's not there. Obviously, installing these hinges in pairs of doors are very common because they're really only made up to 18-inch wide doors. So it'd be common to have cafe doors, saloon doors installed on a pair of these hinges. The same logic is going to apply at your hinge margins. If you're going with 2 square edge doors, I would allow 3/8 of an inch, depending on the thickness, but 3/8 of an inch between the 2 doors would work. If you were going with radiused edge or round edge doors, you really don't need to allow any more than 1/8 of an inch, because those round edge doors will get real nice, allow you to get real nice and tight margin between there. Now, rounding over the edge of the door, that would only be done on the style opposite your hinges. The hinge style always has to be square. And if you're going to radius the edge of the door, I've done it what seems like countless times, so if you have any specific tooling or machining questions, feel free to reach out to us. But that involves a router, a large round over bit, that sort of thing, the ability to clamp the door down, take that router and run it down the edge of the door, flip the door over and do it the other side. Okay. Careful when you're radiusing the edge of a door. If you have a veneered product, you're going to expose the different layers in a veneer. So you'll accentuate as you take that square edge and then you radius it over. You'll see the different layers of backer, crossbanding, whatever might be in the door. If you have a veneered cherry door, let's say, and you're going to radius that, you're going to see things you don't want to see there as you expose the crossbanding in backer. Any questions specifically on machining, feel free to reach out to us. Now, my comment earlier about not all the information is on a single page talking about machining, let's look at the template. And that's a reference to step 2, what I just said. What I mean to say is they don't tell you on that template that the mortise is 2 1/4 inch tall if you're going to mortise the hinge leaf. Now, looking at the installation instructions, everything on the left half of the page you can ignore. That's for the hold open version of these hinges. Everything on the right side pertains to this. These instructions are good for the 1514 and the 1515 series hinge. The 1515 is the same hinge. Will give you a greater door thickness to work, which is specifically for a 7/8 to 1.5 inch door. So it'll, as we said earlier, it's for a thicker door. Now, the top part of the right hand of the page, it's going to show you all the parts that you're going to get with this hinge. And really, you're going to get the hinge. That's obvious. It doesn't show you everything actually, but it's inferred. You'll get a hinge. You're going to get 2 tension pins for every hinge. You'll need 2 of these tension pins. You can see it there. Okay. And at least 1 tension rod. You only need 1 tension rod per order, but you do need 2 tension pins for every hinge. Also, you're of course going to get wood screws. This order happens to have 2 hinges on it, so there are 2 bags of screws. Okay, now moving on. We've detailed all of the parts. Let's move to step 1. If your hinge comes from the factory with tension already set, insert the tension rod, and they generally don't. Insert the tension rod with the tension collar pointed towards the top and turn it clockwise, and you can remove the tension pin. Don't lose the tension pin, please. They're not easy to get more of in a it never came with the hinge sort of scenario. Bommer expends a great deal of energy to make sure every hinge has a tension pin. So remove the tension if that's the case. If you're going to mortise your hinge leaf, that's 2 1/4 inch tall, and then that 3/16 depth. And this leaf here is going to be the mortised leaf to the edge of the door. Step 3 shows that you've got it fastened. Step 4 says, get the door hung. This is the frame leaf. Generally, you're going to install that in the center of the cased opening frame, but really what you're doing, I mean, you can place these anywhere that you really like, I suppose, in a cased opening frame, but what's crucial is that the vertical axis of pivoting of the barrels of the springs are plumb. 2 hinges, these have to be plumb where they're going to be installed. Step 5, you've got your door attached to the frame, the hinge is attached to the door. All you're going to do now is set the tension. So you'll take your tension rod, insert it into a tension collar, turn it clockwise, put it in one hole, release the tension, immediately set the next tension collar. Same sort of logic. Okay? Insert a tension pin. Now you've got one hole of tension set on each spring hinge. Up to 3 holes, maximum tension is what's recommended. Adjust them equally. Don't do one without doing the other. Be careful when you immediately test the door for proper operation when you've got it initially set, because that door might get a little elliptical in its opening, because there might not be enough tension to really keep it firm up against the frame. And at that point, you're done. That's all there is to it. The last thing I'd like to point out to you is the Bommer logo. And right above it, it says Made in USA, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. If you have any questions on the Bommer 1514-603, double-acting spring hinge in a zinc finish, or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us.